Hello. Hey, welcome to the second episode of Day for Night. It's a film podcast. I was just reading from my new book that I'm supposed to plug. I'm bad at doing this. So I'm just going to tell you I have a new book out. It's a bunch of little short stories and plays I wrote, and I think it's funny. I hope you do too. Today's special guest is Ian Deaton. He's an Atlanta treasure. He's a musician and a writer, and most of all, a cinephile. At least he's been accused of being one. We're going to get to the bottom of that. Today we traded off recommendations from the 1980s, and he told me about a movie I'd never seen, and I did that to him. So without further ado, Ian Deaton.
Hello.
Hey, Ian, thanks for coming on the second episode of my podcast.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Um, so I got some questions. In the industry, we call these icebreakers. All right.
Yes, let us break the ice.
What's your favorite thing about me? No, I'm just kidding. No, I was my first question was, how did we meet? You know how like in the world now have Facebook and stuff, and like how do we know each other?
I definitely saw you at shows, like just I've been here on and off since '97, so I've seen you. You're one of the many faces of the Atlanta music scene, and you always seem like a nice, funny dude, and obviously like um, you know, had a prolific output, always like putting out interesting stuff and doing interesting projects. So, somebody that always seemed busy to me, and a lot of people had a lot of very good things to say about you. Have a great
Oh,
sense of humor. So,
I wasn't expecting that kind of answer. I was just trying to remember because it's like sometimes I remember exactly when I met somebody, and I was telling you when we were texting that I don't know that we've met in person very many times. Like
yeah,
like in passing, probably being around each other, but not. I don't think we've talked. But then we like message each other about movies all the time, and like
yeah,
we me and you are like the go-to like music guys for Raymond Carr, I think, right?
yes, that's
And so
correct.
like when I don't
Yes,
do something, you're usually doing it. And
yeah,
like, I mean, same with you. Like I've always like known who you are. And even like Marietta guys like Matt Bernard and stuff. Like we have all
yeah.
we have like hundreds of mutual friends. But I was like, sometimes I can pinpoint like when we met. Um, yeah, the first question I ask everybody is, do you remember the first time you saw a movie in a movie theater, and what was it?
Oh man. So I'm sure there was probably one before it, but my earliest movie memory is going to see Karate Kid in during I think it was a kiddie matinee. Like I was
Oh
in
yeah.
preschool or like maybe even just daycare, and they took us to go see it. And the only thing I remember like visually about it was the final fight sequence. So to the mind of a potentially 3 or 4 year old, because I was born in '80, I think it came out in '84,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly. So in the mind of a 3 or 4 year old, the fight sequence is what stood out to me. Oh, and the soundtrack. Like I remember hearing that Bananarama song "Cruel Summer" and being like just blown away by it. And then after it came on the radio every time, as a kid, I would like freak out and be like, "Oh my god!" And I remember I moved around a lot as a kid because my dad had worked in the airline industry, and then he also had like government jobs, and so it's kind of like an army brat without actually, having the military and the family influence. So, but anyways, yeah, we moved around a lot. So the feeling of in the Karate Kid when he's like coming to a new town, I knew that feeling very well, even at like 3 or 4 because we moved around so much. So it was like I had this. That was it's interesting. I don't even know if I've ever particularly like said this out loud and contextualized the film in that way, but I guess Karate Kid was like my little because Daniel was like a new kid in town and a stranger. I always felt like that. So, anyways, not to like boo-hoo whatever. Like it was
Oh
just
yeah.
the way my life was. But like I guess I identified with that as
Yeah.
an extremely young person.
It's the first movie that I remember, like, like when you walk out of movies, if you go see a race car movie, you're like, "Vroom," and it's the first
Yeah,
movie I remember coming out and like jump kicking and like,
yeah,
but I actually haven't seen it since I was 5 or 4, whatever year it came out. And
yeah.
all I remember was the skeletons because that was like so
Oh
cool.
yes, yeah. That
That's literally
was
all I remember about it. and like
Yeah.
the chopsticks and stuff. But yeah, no, it's interesting. It's one. Yeah, and I have kids now, and that's not one that we've watched because I don't like it. I didn't love it. I just like I saw it once and like
Yeah.
that's a that's but yeah, it ties in. That's the 1980s. That was our era, and that's the decade we're
Yeah.
looking at today. So, do you want to
Yeah.
introduce your movie that you introduced me to?
Yes. So I recommended Iron Angels. It's also called Fighting Madam. There's a lot of different titles, like a lot of exploitation movies. Depending on what market it's in, they'll change the title. If in Germany or France, like a title like Angel does better, they'll title it that. So, anyways, but I believe the original title is Iron Angels because it's kind of an action exploitation riff on Charlie's Angels.
Right.
It's directed by Teresa Wu, who I believe only did 6 features. I know she was also like a producer on a lot of stuff, but I think this is one of the small handful of features that she actually helmed. And I'm sad. I wish I knew more about her. I love Hong Kong action cinema, specifically the late 70s going into the early 90s. Something I recently discovered, like within the last, I mean, I had seen a few films, obviously, in the 90s. I remember my dad taking me to see Rumble in the Bronx, which was filmed in, I believe, Vancouver in Canada, but financed by Hong Kong.
That's
I believe
that was my first Jackie Chan movie.
a lot of
That's one of
people.
the ones I showed me and my son. He's going to come on in a couple of weeks and talk about RoboCop with me.
Oh, nice.
He's going to have a little 5-minute segment because I took him to the plaza last night. But I showed him Rumble in the Bronx and he loved it. But
Yes.
yeah, that I was 14 when that one came out, and my sisters were projectionists, and I could go to like
Oh,
the midnight
nice.
screenings. Yeah, I could go to midnight screenings like the Thursdays before a movie would come out, and like that's how I was introduced to like Oliver Stone, Woody Allen,
Wow.
Scorsese, yeah, all that stuff through them because there was all these like movie geeks working with theater.
Yeah.
So I'd be like a little kid, like 13, 14, going up there. I saw Natural Born Killers when I was 12, you know?
What?
Yeah, yeah. And I'd go up there and they're like, oh, this is Oliver Stone, man. He did Platoon. I'd actually seen Platoon, which was crazy because I have
On
older
H.
sisters. So,
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead,
oh, no,
please.
I just
Yeah.
had older sisters that always had boyfriends that would be like, oh, man, this is Kubrick. This is this guy. You got to watch this. And so, but yeah, anyway, yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because Run with the Bronx was kind of like my introduction. And yeah, I wanted to talk about this because this is the reason I want to do this podcast is because like there's so many pockets of movies I'm just not into. And so this is
Yeah.
like Iron Angels is a movie I would never pick out. Like I would never seek this out by myself because I'm not super into exploitation outside of like spaghetti western, which I guess is arguably exploitation. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I would
It's,
definitely consider it
yeah, it's in
for
the genre.
sure. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so the movie opens up like with a burning poppy field, and it almost tricks you
Yeah.
into thinking it's like an art film because it almost looks like Shohei Imamura or something. Like it's
Yeah.
got this like kind of like it looks like you're getting into like this like war movie that's going to be kind of serious, and then it's just then it's just kind of bombastic and yeah, it was something.
That opening sequence is incredible. I've showed it to so many people. I'm trying to think about how specifically I think I was just on. So I work part time, or I guess more. I'm on the reserve list at Videodrome. I'm definitely like, I help them with events and stuff like that. For anybody who's listening and doesn't know, Videodrome is a local Atlanta video store, one of the last ones around, and we do movie screenings. And anyways, I'm one of the many people that occasionally moonlights there. But their library of cinema is amazing, and they have like about 40,000 movies and television shows there now. And anyways, there's a lot of really obscure stuff that's not on the internet or it's hard to find. Anyways, that was my sales pitch for
It's a great
Videodrome, but but it's a great place, and it's been a film education kind of center for a lot of artists in town and young people and all kinds of people come in there and rent. But anyways, that I discovered proper, like after, as I was saying earlier, seeing accidental Hong Kong cinema. Not that it was an accident that it was Hong, but I didn't know at the time when I would go see that in the theater that was a Hong Kong film. You know, and once I actually discovered it through Videodrome. Like, oh shit, there's like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these movies. Especially once you got into the kind of like what's called bullet ballet or gun fu, or there's a bunch of different various names that come with the various subgenres, but as a blanket term, and some of them are kind of insulting. I think like gung fu sounds silly and a little offensive. I don't know. Anyways, but I mostly just categorize them as like, just Hong Kong action films. Sometimes it can get confusing though, because obviously there are a lot of Shaw Brothers and like kung fu movies made in Hong Kong too. But when most people say Hong Kong action films, they're talking about a specific period from the late 70s until the early 90s, when there was a big boom with, I guess, popularity in the police and crime genre, specifically in America. Those movies did really well, and whenever big Hollywood movies, did really well, you always see movements getting popular in different countries, especially where those American films do well. And obviously the American market doesn't necessarily have to begin those cycles. Other countries do it all the time too. But I believe that the 80s Hong Kong action films were highly influenced, obviously, by American crime films like Dirty Harry and Death Wish. And then getting into that, obviously you have later ridiculous, Sylvester Stallone and Dolph Lundgren and Jean-Claude Van Damme propaganda movies. Where
I do enjoy some of those, though.
Oh yeah, some of them are great. I mean, there's some amazing neo noirs like hidden inside of like ridiculous action movies that I really. But so that was a long tangent. But Iron Angels, during one of my like deep dives, I somehow discovered it. I wish I could remember how, but it just
3 of them, right?
Yeah. There's
the others
3.
Good?
I've never seen them. They're hard. They're really hard to find. I found like a boot of one of them on a a site that doesn't seem like a good idea to watch. Might give your computer a virus, but I think there's some copies knocking around YouTube every once in a while before they get taken down. But the main thing that was exciting to me about this film was, first of all, I know there are a lot of women filmmakers that were in the Hong Kong scene, but there are not that many known, and that could necessarily be either just because of industry sexism or some kind of like, subconscious bias I have on my own. But I try to like, I don't think so, but either way, I'm not above criticism. But either way, I got really excited because I had not seen a film directed by a woman in that Hong Kong action cinema that I was notable of. And anyways, she's, needless to say, fucking incredible filmmaker. Like that opening sequence is like,
it's beautiful. To
me, almost like Kurosawa level shit. Some of those low angle shots with the fire hitting the poppy fields and everything, and it's so disorienting too, because it's like this atrocity that's happening, that's opening up the film, and then it goes into this like very sensationalized like exploitation style opening, like literally flying at you. And the title comes up in the like intense like dun, 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 like 80s action theme comes in and
oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I haven't said yet, but I really enjoyed it. I like I said, this was nothing I normally would seek out, and it was so much fun because it's like it's everything. Like you have shootouts, you have like the close up martial arts, you have car chases. You have a weird one thing that stuck out in my mind is I don't know if you rewatched it. There's some weird part where they're like in an office, and there's like the music goes along with like a girl tapping her feet and then a guy doing something. It feels almost like a Buster Keaton joke.
Yeah,
it was really bizarre.
Yeah,
one of the best endings to a movie. It's one of those movies that if I showed a couple of my friends, they would ask me if I wrote the ending. They would be like,
the banana peel.
Yeah. It's like something that I would put in the end of a movie. And it's totally out of nowhere. But I mean, it is like a Charlie's Angels episode, like freeze frames, and they're all laughing.
Yes, exactly. And
Moon Lee is also incredible, just as a martial artist. Like I don't know the other lady. Did the other lady do her own stunts? I wasn't familiar with her. I know
Are you talking
Mooney.
about the villain?
Yeah, and the
Oh
other
yeah.
angel.
Oh, okay. So I know the villain is Yukari Oshima, and she was in a
Mhm.
ton of action films in Hong Kong. She's actually from Japan originally, and then I believe one of her parents was from Japan, and I think she started acting there, but I'm not 100% correct. And then in the late 70s, early 80s, there was a huge film boom in Hong Kong, in Taiwan, and so they just a shitload of actors from all over the world came there to make. I mean, that's where fucking Jonathan Van Damme, Cynthia Rothrock, Michelle Yeoh, Jackie Chan, obviously. There's so many more people that Donnie Yen, Jet Li, like they all made their careers working in like sometimes grimy exploitation movies. But I mean, Chow Yun Fat, I could keep
Yeah.
going. So many fucking amazing, insanely talented actors and directors, and John Woo. Um,
Yeah, I'm not the biggest. It's funny. Okay, so I had this thought when I started watching this. Um, I love spaghetti westerns. It's like,
yeah,
and also I wanted to ask you a question. We'll circle back to about Quentin Tarantino's influence on getting those kind of movies released. If you think it's cool or if it kind of ruins them a little bit. So I love spaghetti westerns, but I will say like the Sergio Leone big stuff, the Fistful of Dollars, Good, the Bad, the Ugly. I think they're fine movies, and I don't think
hmm
the genre wouldn't exist without a Fistful of Dollars.
yeah,
However, however, I if I watch one, I never go to those. Like I always want to see like Django Kill, Django Drags a Coffin, Prepare Your Coffin.
yeah,
I want to see like the weird horror ones like Lucio Fulci's. And so like to me like this was like same thing where like if I want to watch like a Hong Kong shoot 'em up movie, I wouldn't go to John Woo. Like
yeah.
I was this like was he like the Leone and everyone else was the Corbucci's? Was he like the big guy in this genre?
That that's a weird question. I'm not sure. Like or that's not a weird question. I meant to say I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, yeah, I
I
don't
wish
either.
I did.
Like,
I
it seems like
definitely know.
probably maybe that's just an American point of view, like because he's our biggest like in the you're close to my age, like that's
Yeah,
Killer and Hard Boiled, like every dude our
yeah,
age knew those movies, and I just
yeah,
wasn't like blown away by them. I mean, I liked like I loved obviously I grew up liking Bruce Lee out of Hong Kong and like
yeah.
and stuff like that, and even later on Shaolin Saga. But yeah, the John Woo stuff never did anything for me. I definitely didn't like his American movies. I didn't like
He's
Hard Target and all that stuff. I never liked it.
Yeah. Hard Target is like a LSD nightmare of a mixed with a comic book. It doesn't make any sense. And
No.
I just worked on a promo. I do like set work stuff on commercials and TV shows, movies occasionally, to make ends meet. And anyway, so I just worked with a camera operator. Well, actually, now she's a cinematographer. I won't name her in case she wants to keep. But either way, really, really amazing person that I've worked with a bunch before. And she worked on Hard Target, I believe, as a camera utility or assistant or something like that. Down in Louisiana with John Woo, and she has some very funny stories about working on it, about Jean-Claude Van Damme and John Woo. And I could go into them, but we could save them for later or something.
Yeah,
There's a few longer stories, but I want to try to stay on topic because I can
yeah.
distract easy.
Me too. No. So my Quentin Tarantino question is, I think both of you, me and you, have similar like, we don't want to belong to any group that would have us as members. We're very, I think we
That's
both
true.
are kind of punk rock kids, and I'm sure it's hard to shake that. And so
Yeah,
there's that.
it definitely. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna say so that part of me it irritated me when like Kill Bill came out and then everybody was talking about spaghetti westerns because it was my little thing. I had like
Yeah,
all these old crusty CDs of like Volume One, and it would have like they would be in Italian, and it was like my thing. And then all of a sudden, it's like Grindhouse present with Grindhouse. Like, come on, but
yeah,
like it'd be Grindhouse presents a Day of Anger, Grindhouse, and like it went everywhere. But now that I'm like a little old, now it's been like almost 20 years since that happened. Now I'm
yeah.
kind of grateful because I can actually find these movies. And I was wondering what your kind of thoughts on that because he did that with the Shaw Brothers. Like he went on and on and on about the Shaw Brothers, and now Arrow just like put out that huge Shaw Brothers thing.
Oh, yeah.
So
It's
what's your
so.
like?
I mean,
Yeah,
I think it's good, and I have a very. It doesn't really matter ultimately, but like I have a very conflicted relation, or well, as a fan and viewer of cinema, I have very conflicted feelings about Quentin Tarantino. I remember seeing my mom and my her boyfriend, who's basically my stepfather for many years. They never got married, but anyways, he took me to see that with my mom down in Riverdale when it came out. I hadn't moved up here yet. I was still living in Tampa. But either way, I was say again.
Was it Pulp Fiction? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it was Pulp Fiction. Yeah, in '94, and that fucking blew me away. Like I saw a print of it on six. That's what the only thing that was playing. There was no fucking DCP. So by accident, I saw a print of Pulp Fiction, but it was amazing. And my mom's boyfriend / my stepdad Clarence grew up watching exploitation movies, and that was basically what he said to me as like the pitch. He was like, I was like, what is this? Like, I don't know what it is. And he was like, it's like the shit I grew up watching. And he started, naming stuff like Superfly and, I'm trying to think of what, I don't know, now my mind is just blanking. But basically, 70s, exploitation cinema. And anyways, I didn't know anything about that. I'd never seen anything like that. And of course, even now, as much as my feelings are conflicted about him, his movies are powerful cinematic experiences. There are tons of other directors that are way more amazing and mind-blowing, but I don't know, he's kind of like the gateway drug to, in my opinion, for a lot of people, to international cinema. And as obnoxious and kind of self-unaware as he seems as a human being, I might, I'm not saying I'm better or anything, but yeah, I don't know. I've heard weird stories about him. Not anything creepy or anything like that, but just that he can be very full of himself in a way that, most importantly, fucks with his coworkers. As somebody who works on sets and knows that they thrive on cooperation and listening to people and being responsible and caring and safe. Not that then, there's the incident with Uma Thurman where he basically ruined her back for life because he wanted to get that shot. And we're
talking into TMZ.
Yeah. I mean, they made up and everything like that, and it's something that had nothing to do with me. I wasn't there, but at the same time, growing up loving his movies so much, and then finding out that at certain times he's been a shitty boss to his coworkers. I'm like,
I think he's a little bit of a masochist. Yeah, but no, I was just wondering. I was just curious what you thought about how because like I said, the little snotty punk in me is that's my stuff. But I think it's pretty cool now because now people can see the stuff and half the stuff he recommends is awful though. He's got some pretty bad taste. But we're at about the halfway point, so I was going to switch over to my recommendation. I haven't heard what you think of this. So I recommended to you one of my all-time favorite movies, and I don't say that too lightly. Easily in my top 10. This is Leos Carax's Boy Meets Girl. And I did a bad job last week. I always assume if I know something, everyone knows it. And a couple people texted me, and I kept referring to Persona, and I didn't explain that it was Ingmar Bergman. So for those of you that maybe Leos Carax sounds vaguely familiar, he directed Holy Motors, which is on every list of every best movie of the decade list. And he recently did Annette, the musical with Sparks and Adam Driver. But so this is his debut film. And
what a ride.
To what?
I said, what a ride.
Yeah, and so my introduction to him was through this isn't very cool. I wish I could tell you that I grew up and read some cool book and learned about it. It's not true. I saw that anthology movie Tokyo. Did you see that?
I didn't, but I know what you're referring to.
Okay, yeah, it's him and Michel Gondry, and I think I can't remember who the third guy is, but they each did a short, and his was by far my favorite. And so I looked him up, and I watched all of his movies, and then Holy Motors came out, and it expanded on that character. But it's basically about a young director or an aspiring director. It's kind of a street punk who just goes to a party and meets a girl, and it's not very plot heavy. And I was wondering, what did you think of it?
So I think it was insanely well photographed. Just fucking beautiful cinematography. I loved the um, opaque or whatever, I guess, superimposed footage that they used to like have enhance the dream-like slash surreal kind of heightened universe that these characters live in. Like there's several moments in the film where someone's face is superimposed as if they're watching one of the characters, walking down the street or something. And I just finished writing a feature that took like a year to write,
Yeah.
and I've been specifically thinking about that kind of imagery, that classic cinema imagery where you don't use any compute, not that there's anything wrong with CGI, but like you don't use any digital effects. You literally just like film one person at one angle and another person, and make the footage opaque and fade them into each other. Anyways, it's something that I'm sure if you go to film school, you learn like on the fucking first day. But I didn't go to film school, so it's a relatively new trick that I actually physically figured out how to do. And it was exciting to me, just making like silly music videos with my friends and be like, oh my God, it really enhances. It's an easy trick that can really make your footage, if you're going for a surreal vibe, can really, what am I trying to say? Just bring things together. Anyways, having said that, I also have very conflicted feelings about this movie. I thought it was insanely beautiful. I loved like the all over the place vibe of the plot. It reminded me a lot of those dreams that you have where you're like trying to do something really simple like find your keys or get to a phone to dial a number, and you just keep getting sidetracked in these like escalating series of bizarre situations. And usually it winds up being like a pee dream or something. You have to pee. Your body's trying to alert you, but I've definitely had many of those. And so, anyways, that the film really reminded me of that. It has a very dreamlike quality to it, and there was a big part of me that was like, oh, I didn't think they were going to have like an M. Night Shyamalan ending where it's like the whole movie's a dream, but there was a part of me that felt that, and I really appreciated that. But I guess the key to the film that was lost on me, I wish I had actually. Normally, I like to go into movies blind most of the time. If there's a good enough premise to it, I'm all like, if there's a good sentence like a werewolf, gets and a mummy go into space, I'm like, okay, I got it. I'll watch it. Don't tell me anymore. But this movie was a little confusing to me, and that's not necessarily bad. There's tons of great movies where you just experience it it just kind of washes over you, and but this film, I felt like I wanted there to be more of a straightforward plot for some reason. Maybe I was just tired or something. I don't know, but I felt it was a little meandering at times. But I feel like also if maybe I had gotten more sleep, I might feel differently, because there's tons of films like that, especially what I feel that movie is paying homage to, obviously, is like the French New Wave. You can the choice to have it black and white might be something technical to try to save money, but also at the same time, I feel it directly tying itself with that aesthetic choice to obviously Godard and Melville and Truffaut and stuff like that. It definitely had a feeling like 400 Blows, where there's a weird, mildly dreamy sense, but you're just watching this like, little street kid like fuck around and get in trouble and like, try to survive in his like crushing existence that he has, and growing up as a poor person in Paris at the time. But they try to sell it as a sort of an odyssey and a journey. So anyways, that reminded me of this movie, which I think is a good thing. But first, I don't know, there was something about it where I got impatient with the film for some reason.
Oh, okay.
But I definitely, I wouldn't say that I, being obsessed with movies, especially like ones that are effectively made, and even if the story's confusing, if the filmmaker tells it confidently, you'll go back to it over and over again. Like Donnie Darko, this was the question that you you asked me before the show about film theory, film
I
theory
asked
that
if
I
you had
enjoy.
any. Yeah,
Do you want
I
to
asked
wait for later
no.
to
I
ask
was just
that, or
gonna.
okay?
No, I was gonna say yeah. I asked you to if there's like a weird like film theory that you have a favorite one. Like, because I really like the one about I don't really I'm not really into Star Wars, but I like the one about how Jar Jar Binks is the Sith Lord. There's a very
Yeah,
convincing there's
yeah,
like a convincing
yeah,
14-minute video. But yeah, sure, jump into it. I just want to get my little spiel out real quick.
yeah.
But yeah, and I've never seen Donnie Darko before, so but you can spoil it. I'm never gonna watch it.
Oh, okay. So this the way it ties into the Boy Meets Girl is so I after watching the film, I then after I watched Boy Meets Girl, I was a little confused. And again, normally that's okay. Like I love movies that are crazy and all over the place sometimes. But I was like, I want to learn more about it. So, anyways, I went and read the plot, and once the even just the Wikipedia page, the plot's very straightforward in the Wikipedia page, and I was like, oh shit, like that makes the movie every question that I had was lined up. And that just might be, like I said, I was either tired or I'm just not very smart. And that could, the jury's still out on that one. But like, what was I going to say? Coming back to Donnie Darko, I watched that movie. The first time I saw it, I was like, what a piece of shit. I loved the soundtrack, but what a lame, like you just wasted everyone's time with that movie. And I was so angry because I saw a window into what it could be, and I was disappointed by it. But then I wanted to watch it again. And then I kept watching it. And then eventually, for a while, it became like my fucking favorite movie.
Really?
And I saw this, and now I'm having one of those weird false memory questions where I don't know if I came up with this theory on my own or I read it somewhere on the internet, but I know that there's definitely at least print of Richard Kelly talking about this, but I swear there's like an introduction on YouTube or something where he's showing. It's like my memory is that there's an intro of him at like someplace like the New Beverly in LA, introducing it within the last 10 years. And he just says, this is a superhero origin story where the superhero decides to kill himself instead of becoming Superman or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, and that explained every question in that film for me. Because people are always like, oh, the movie is like a mystery. It's like a little Pandora's box. And the more you watch it, the more questions you have. But when he said, and again, now I'm like, I don't know if that's actually a real video or I dreamed it or what. But once I got that concept in my head and the movie's like, about Green Lantern or Batman or Superman, but instead of becoming a superhero, he's like, I'm chronically depressed and I hate my life. I'm going to commit suicide, and I definitely don't want to time travel and do all this shit. Like, fucking forget about it. Like, regular life is hard enough. Like, I can't. So anyways, once I came up, or not me, once I grasped that concept, I rewatched the movie, and it was amazing. And I was like, I wish I had known that when I watched it the 5 million times, trying to answer what does this all mean. And so for this movie, I felt like I guess I'll call myself a novice writer because I've written a screenplay. I'm not an amateur anymore. I've moved on to novice. As a novice writer, I think about Boy Meets Girl from a writing perspective. I feel like Leos Carax did one of those things where, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly.
Yeah, that's good.
Close enough. We got different accents, It seemed, I know he was extremely young when he wrote this, like in his like late teens or early 20s, and then got it made when he was like 24. Yeah, holy shit. Talk about ambition. Jeez. I didn't even become a fucking PA until I was like 26. Like, I didn't do not that. Yeah.
I've looked back at my scripts because I wrote scripts as young as 16, and the first script I wrote, I mean, it's terrible, but the first one I wrote, you know how like when you're into movies, everyone's like somebody works at a bank or something, you come up and they're like, man, you know what a great movie is? A bank. Wacky stuff's always happened in my job.
Yeah.
I wrote a script about my job, and I worked at a movie theater.
Nice.
Yeah, and I mean, it had some good jokes in it. I will tell you that. Even at 16, it had a plot and had jokes. But anyway, yeah, his name Leos Carax is like an anagram of like Alex and I can't remember. It's like It's like names he uses for everything because his character is always Alex and something else. It should
Ah,
be obvious to me, but that's where Leos Carax. His real name is like I don't know what his real. It's long. Um, so it's funny
Alexa
because I.
Duvernay.
So what?
Oh, I just made up a fake French name. I said Alexa Duvernay.
Yeah, I think that's
But
it. Yeah.
anyways,
So when I watched this, I had seen the other stuff first, and maybe saying, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Bad
oh,
Blood,
Bad Blood. Yeah.
The Night is Young. That one's like almost like an Almodovar movie. It's like very colorful, and you might have liked that one better, but because of the dead Kennedys and like
No.
the stuff in the beginning, that's why I recommended this one first. So I saw that one, and then I watched Lovers on the Bridge, which is just like, I mean, I love that one, but it's almost like an epic. It's so long, and like I watched this one last, and I don't know if maybe like I was already so like in tune with his style that I liked this one
Yeah.
more. You know what I mean? I think it had to do with the
Yeah.
order in which I watched them in, because like, and I don't know, I recommended this one to you instead of that. Like I said, yeah, because like the Dead Kennedy stuff and
Yeah.
like
I like the
the
kind
use
of
of
punk
music.
feel of the movie, like in general.
There's great jokes in it too. I like the Denis Lavant. I cannot pronounce the actress's name. Maybe
Oh,
Renee can put. No,
Dennis
no,
Levan.
no. He's Denis Lavant. I gotta say,
Yeah.
the girl.
You're
It's
talking
like,
about Dennis Levan that lives down the street?
yep. The
Sorry.
girl in it is like Morel Pereira. I don't know how to say her name. I'm not French,
Yeah.
but she's super like interesting, and like she doesn't do a lot in the movie. But in the other movies, Denis Lavant does like flips and stuff, and he's very like physical, and he's like almost like a Charlie Chaplin. And
Yeah.
like he's super like weird and funny, and I just love him so much. And so like again, like I'm wondering if you get into the other ones, I'm wondering if it's gonna like affect this one. But yeah, when you're talking about it, you keep like you're mentioning the plot. I talked about this on my first episode, how I definitely prefer character and mood to plot. I'm not good at following complicated plots. Like
Yeah.
that one movie, Tinker Tailor Soldier
Oh,
Spy, I was like
yeah.
I just couldn't
Yeah.
keep up. But
Yeah.
so like when I think of this movie, I don't even think of the plot. I just think of scenes and scissors, and I think of like the old American woman. I think she's American. The woman that's like the older
Oh,
lady at
yeah.
the
That's hosting the
party.
party.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like when he's like having to watch the baby. I just like there's so many just scenes that pop up in my head, and I love the opening scene with like the cracked windshield with like the skis
Oh,
going through
yeah.
it.
And that fucking, I mean, it, the music sequence is so incredible. There's like that French synth pop playing while she's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
driving with her kid in the car on the highway. And there was a lot of things that really reminded me of Repo Man. And I wonder
yeah,
if,
yeah, yeah.
like, I don't know, I guess they came out the same year.
I
But
don't
like,
know.
I guess they were probably both influenced by French New Wave because the way they shoot cities at night in French New Wave movies are like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
fucking fantastic, which obviously came, partially from like American film noir, but like they did it in a very particular way, sometimes with the Vaseline on the lens. And I think honestly that was like a technical choice that they might have made where they're like, we can't show some of this stuff. So if you put Vaseline on the lens, the lights really blow out
Yeah,
and it creates this
you know a lot more
dreamy
about
thing.
the filmmaking. Like you know way more technical stuff. It's funny hearing like somebody like you talk about these. Um, he has a weird relationship with Godard. It's like kind of one of those things where like if you're in a band and you sound like whoever, you don't like to mention them in the press. Like he
Yeah.
didn't. I don't think he likes getting compared to Godard because he was obviously so influenced. But after this movie, he definitely went in a completely, in my opinion, completely different way. To me, this reminds me more of Antonioni. I don't know. Have you seen a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
Antonioni?
Yeah, I've seen La Ventura and obviously blow up. Yeah, blow up.
Yeah, I'm thinking more like Red Desert, La Noche, and La Ventura, like how they're just sort of experiential and they're dreamy,
Yeah,
but they're not really like nothing like otherworldly or surreal happens. They just like something feels a little off, like
yeah.
or After Hours by Scorsese. Like just
Oh,
that's one of my favorite movies. I think I'm covering that with Shannon Mulvaney.
oh,
You like that
great.
one?
Oh, I love After Hours. I think that
It's
movie. Honestly, I love. I'm like whatever. I'm a generic like lame white dude. Like, of course, I like Scorsese, and um, I love. I think honestly, After Hours maybe is my favorite of
it's
his,
my
just
favorite by far.
because it's there. I mean, his movies are incredible. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's just they're all so heavy, and After
Yeah.
Hours is like him doing some late night fuck. I mean, I didn't even know it was him. I remember my mom showing me that on VHS when I was a kid, and I was laughing my ass off
I
like
didn't
the
see it
whole
till recently, and I recommend it to Coen Brother dudes, like the dudes that love Big Lebowski and stuff.
yeah
Which, like, I mean, Coen Brothers. I have a Serious Man poster right there. I love the
yeah
Coen Brothers. I didn't mean
yeah
that as a negative. I always am like,
yeah
if you want to see a Coen Brothers movie the Coen Brothers didn't make, watch After Hours.
yeah
Um,
absolutely
it feels so. I showed it to my wife, and she's like, "This is the closest thing to like a Kafka nightmare." Pretty
yeah
much. It's got such a bonkers. Yeah, it's bonkers. I had a couple more questions for you. Do you? I know you're. I don't know. I don't know if you're like one of those list maker people who always has a top 10. But do you have like your go-to favorite movie or favorite filmmaker? Do you have a single favorite?
yes well okay, I'll say right now my
Yeah.
favorite movie of all time pretty much since I was a little kid until now is Clue
Oh yeah.
by Jonathan Lynn. Uh, I've seen that movie. I would say at least 400 times, maybe more. I don't know. I just watch it all the
It's
time, and
incredible.
I
Yeah.
I watch it in different. And I don't know. It was at a really weird moment. I mean, like I think a lot of creative people we experience the world through the work that we're trying to make, or
Mhm.
especially when we're little kids. What am I trying? So I'll just cut the shit. I'm really obsessed with movies and music, and that's pretty much it. I don't know. Those are the two worlds that I'm obsessed with, and they run my whole life, for better or worse. And I feel like eventually, once I got old enough, I was like, oh, that's how I take the world in, because I'm not great at. I don't know. The world doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't think it does to most people, but either way, I kind of bury my feelings sometimes inside movies and music, and I use them as a way to sort of like compartmentalize things. And I'm not trying to turn this into a therapy session, but when I first saw Clue, my parents, unknown to me at the time, were getting ready to have a divorce. Like, I don't
Oh,
think that they were saying it directly, but they were talking about it. And things were strange in my house. But again, I was too young. I was like 5 years old. I couldn't really grasp what was going on. And they weren't like screaming and fighting or anything like that all the time. It was a very quiet thing, but I could sense tension. And Clue, my mom brought it home and like from the video store, and I watched it and I laughed. I mean, I just watched it constantly, and I think looking back on that, it's because these people, something strange is happening to these people, and they can't quite put their finger on it. And there's this dramatic tension that's there that I was starting to recognize as a young person, and I feel like that's one of the reasons why it kind of hooked me when I was a kid. And like this weird sort of sense of betrayal that these people all have with each other. Maybe that's what's going on with mom and dad. Like, and
yeah.
is it me and my sister's fault? Like, who knows? But either way, I don't know why I've just am obsessed with that film, and I have this uh, really silly idea. I got a ton of fucking movie ideas, and I write them all down. But I really would one day love to not remake Clue, but essentially do Clue structure, but with everybody on acid. So these strangers come into, a big, uh, wonderful mansion for strange reasons. Nobody really knows why. And then, during dinner, they accidentally ingest acid, and the same thing happens. So, anyways,
Yep.
but I'm, what was I going to say? I think one of the things that I realized after watching Clue for so many different times in so many different formats is like if you love a movie enough, or even a piece enough, it doesn't matter. It can be any kind of art form, and you can figure out everything you need to know about that particular discipline from studying that thing that they're obsessed with
Yeah,
over
yeah.
and over again. And I feel like I've learned so much about filmmaking just watching Clue over and over again. Like, um, yeah.
When you said about writing a movie like that, I do this thing like this isn't a plug for my book, but I'm gonna hold it up again.
Hey, it can be. That's okay.
I do this thing where I'll repeat basically the same joke in two or three different stories. It's sort of like a running motif. And I do this joke in there where I say, like somebody will go, yeah, I've been working on that mystery forever. And they're like, what is it? He's like, it's a murder mystery, but every character in it's a butler. I can't figure out how to end the thing. That's like, I do that joke like three times because it's in my, yeah, I always wanted to write a murder mystery where every character was a butler. But yeah,
convention.
Yeah. What I wanted to interject when you're talking about, we are gonna have a therapy session. When you're talking about your parents and watching Clue, there is something very warm about movies that take place in one place, like Key Largo, Clue,
Yes.
Rear Window, anything that's like rainy and in a house or something.
Yeah.
Or like where it doesn't really leave. When I was a kid, I just was talking to somebody about this the other day when my parents split up. I'm not a Star Trek guy, but Star Trek: The Next Generation was so cozy because they're on the ship all the time, and there's that white noise. So I'd go to sleep watching that, and like it's just like, and most of the episodes just like, Deanna, we have to go meet these people, and then like it's almost like a soap opera, and like it was just very calm and nothing terrible. I always knew everything was going to be okay at the end, and they were going to go to sleep in their little quarters. And so there is something like very comforting about that stuff. But let's not. I don't want to cry. Let's not cry at the end of this.
We can later.
But that's interesting. Yeah, I have two favorite movies, and I'm going to cover them. I think I've told you. I consider The Master by Paul Thomas Anderson to be the best modern film. To me,
I've still never seen that. Stupidly enough, I know I need to watch it. Like,
I want you to watch it and come back because it's okay that this podcast is all over the place because everybody on the planet has ADHD now, so it's fine. We can talk about whatever we want. But so, like all Paul Thomas Anderson, you watch it once and you're like, oh man, that was good and that was intense, and then you watch it again and you're like, oh, this is funny. And then I've seen it like I'm kind of like you. I've watched it every year since it's come out. Once a year since 2012. So I'm coming up on my 11th or 12th viewing at least. And it's now it's like hilarious to me. And I thought I was just a weirdo. I was like, does nobody think this is funny? And a lot of people were like, I mean, there's jokes in it, but it's like so subtle. And then I looked it up, and Paul Thomas Anderson, when he did whatever one of his more recent series, Phantom Thread, during the press tour, they said, "Do you think you'll ever just do a comedy like with Adam Sandler? You know, because you love him, or like?" And he goes, "Oh, I thought I made a comedy with the Master," and everybody laughed. He's like, "No, I'm serious." He's like, "Me and Joaquin think it's like really funny." And then I found an interview with Joaquin, and he goes, "When we watch it without the score, it's like it plays like a comedy." And I was like, "Yeah, it's validated." But anyway. We're running a little long, but that's okay. I don't think Renee's going to yell at us. So we're going to get to me and you each have I actually picked two because I'm lame. We're going to recommend a movie if you like these. But I'm going to do a trivia question with you. So we did 1984 and 1987. Do you know what the top grossing movies of those 2 years was? 84. Think about it.
84.
These aren't any of these. While you're thinking, I'm going to tell you some movies that came out that year, and it's not any of these, but these are good movies. So 1984, we got to see Blood Simple, Terminator. Oh, nice. We got a James Cameron and a Coen brothers debut, and then Dune, Paris, Texas, and Broadway, Danny Rose. That's all in 84. That was a good year.
Wow. Damn.
So do you know what? There's a big one you're going to think it is. It's like a big franchise. Think about it.
Yeah.
It's not
Ghostbusters, obviously. But
it's Ghostbusters, yeah.
Oh, it
but
is.
Temple of Doom was number 2, which surprised me.
Okay.
Yeah, and then 87 is kind of weird. Do you know what? So that year we had Raising Arizona, we had Evil Dead 2, RoboCop, we had Belly of an Architect, Wings of Desire. These are just my favorites. But do you know what the top 2 movies of 87 were?
87. I'm trying to think of. Where was I? Okay, so I was living in Kansas City again, at the times, and that was when Lost Boys came out, I believe, too.
I think
So
so.
that, gosh, what was like the big shit movie that year?
It's a comedy. I'll tell you that.
I I
It's
feel
an
like my
action
mom
comedy.
and it's a what?
It's an action comedy. I'll tell you that.
Oh, so 87 action comedy. Oh, why can't I think of something flashed in my mind right, but I can't. Does it have Eddie Murphy in it? I know
Yeah,
it's not. Oh, is it Beverly Hills Cop 2?
yeah, that was the number one movie, and surprisingly, Platoon was number two.
Wow.
Now that would never happen. Now it would be like, Dunkirk wasn't in the top. That kind of stuff doesn't do well. But yeah, I thought that was. I was really surprised at Platoon. I was like, that's bonkers. So yeah, I probably need to end. We're up almost at an hour. I don't know how to
Okay.
do this. I'm not a TV person. I'm looking at
It's
a
all right.
number.
It's been fun. Yeah.
Yeah, man, we
Yeah.
could talk forever. I'll have you back, and I'm gonna make you watch The Master. Um,
Yes. I would love
so
to.
we were gonna pick something to recommend people, and I was gonna tell you. I don't. Have you seen Mr. Lonely by Harmony Korine?
Yes. I love
Okay,
that movie. I think that's one of his best movies, like
it's my
in terms
favorite.
of yeah, in terms of like overall effectiveness and what I what he said he's going for in cinema. I feel like that's maybe I don't know. It's my favorite movie of his for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like it's the sweetest. It's definitely sad as shit, but at the same time, some of his other movies have this very cruel edge to it, which
Mhm.
is great. That's part of his like kind of worlds, but there's something very sweet and like beautiful about Mr. Lonely
It took me
that
a
he
while. It took me a while to come around to him because I don't want to go on a tangent. But when Gummo came out, I was just like, "This
yeah
is like unfunny John Waters." Like I can laugh and I
yeah.
So anyway, Mr. Lonely. The reason I picked that is because Leos Carax is in it, and Denny Levant plays Charlie
You're
Chaplin.
right.
Yeah,
Yes. Oh, I knew
he's
I fucking recognized him.
Leos
Like I
Leos Carax plays the agent that sends him out on jobs. But and also
oh
it's got just like a similar like kind of dark sweetness to it. And my other one I picked because I went with two because I'm the boss of this show. Um, I've actually been to Hong Kong. I don't know if you know
oh
my music
nice.
history, but I when MySpace got big, the first record label I emailed and was like, "Will you put out my weird toy piano music?" They were like, "Yep," and they were in Hong Kong, and I played over there. Um,
Wow.
and Hong Kong has a very specific energy that you get in movies, and so I thought a mixture of our two movies, the energy, sort of the influence of the French New Wave and the boy and girl and crime with the Hong Kong energy. Was I picked a very popular movie, Chungking Express. I mean,
Oh yeah,
I don't think
of
it's obscure
course.
at all. I mean, I think any film buff knows Chungking Express, but I felt like that was like a good marriage between our two
Oh
picks.
yeah, absolutely. It's got some crime elements to it. Uh, yeah. I will say, embarrassingly enough, same thing. I have definitely seen some Wong Kar-wai movies. I've never seen Chungking Express, and that's like most people say his greatest movie. And I
Yeah, I
feel
like
like
it.
a silly man for not ever watching it. But and it's all we have a section of Visit Videodrome, and I've peeled through it, and I for some reason haven't watched that one. Now
He's
I need
somebody
to
I
go
get
back
kind of
and
intimidated by. Like, he's got so many. And
yeah.
the first one I watched was In the Mood for Love on an airplane, and like
Wow.
it wasn't a good time to watch like a really slow movie. And then I
Yeah.
was kind of put off from him for a while. But Chunking I really love. I just feel like I try when we do these, I try to pick kind of like offbeat, obscure stuff. But I mean, with this one, I just felt like it was like a good. I mean, I don't know. Maybe some of the viewers aren't as into movies as we are, so I think it'll be going. But all right, you want to end the show? What's your
Yeah.
recommendation?
So I am recommending another Hong Kong action movie. This one is Yes, Madam, starring the amazing Michelle Yeoh. This was actually so within Hong Kong action films of the 80s and 90s. This is actually the beginning of a subgenre known kind of insultingly as girls with guns. I don't think that's a very, I don't know, it just seems like condescending. But these
Yeah,
movies are fucking amazing. And Yes, Madam was the first big hit of this formula. I believe it's directed by Corin Wynn, but I can't remember exactly. But either way, it takes
that
the
sounds right. I think
um,
it's right.
action comedy formula of movies like Beverly Hills Cop and 48 Hours, both Eddie Murphy, amazing movies, and turns it and puts it on high grade medical speed. And this movie, I mean, Michelle Yeoh is we're all lucky to get to exist on the same time period as her. She's fucking amazing, and everybody that's watched Everything Everywhere All the Time, like, you need to go back and watch her Hong Kong movies and see why she's, in addition to being an incredible actor, an incredible fucking stunt performer. I mean, she just shit in this movie and she grew up doing dance and modeling, and so because the nature of fight choreography and film is all about you do a dance with your other actor. Basically, these fight scenes that we think are tough and whatever, it's just dancing. And Michelle Yeoh, because she came from that world, when she was working on a commercial in Hong Kong, it was one of her first jobs, and it was a commercial with Jackie Chan. It's like, hi, I'm Jackie Chan, and I love on the go, like Gatorade or something like that. I don't know what it was for. I have no idea, but either way, she was the quote unquote girl on his arm in the commercial. And she got to know him and some of the filmmakers on the commercial, and they brought her on to one of Jackie Chan's movies, and he was gonna, once again, she was gonna be put in this insulting position of being the pretty lady that Jackie Chan's fighting for. And so they asked her to do a stunt in this first film that they were in together, or maybe it was even in a commercial, I can't remember, but either way, they asked her to do a stunt. And because she had a dance background, they're like, we're going to show you the moves. And she got it they walked her through it, and she's like, I got it. They're like, no, hold on, are you a model? I don't think you have it. She's like, no, I have it. I grew up doing this. Let's do it. So they shot it, and she nailed everything in this stunt, like in the first fucking take. And all of a sudden, Jackie Chan and the other filmmakers are like, they hired Michelle Yeoh and brought her onto all these movies. And Yes, Madam is like her first really big hit as a lead character. And once again, the stunts in the movie are just mind-blowing. A few times they use doubles when it's like people jumping on fucking helicopters and shit like that. But like,
is she in Police Story?
She's in Police Story 3. Also known as Super Cop in the States, but in Hong Kong and everywhere else, it's Police Story 3. And Jackie Chan said, he's a little bit of a chauvinist, straight up, like, no bullshit. He said that he's only scared of two women in the world. One is his wife, and the other one is Michelle Yeoh. So, if that makes if that's an endorsement for Michelle Yeoh, I don't know what it is. Like, she's a badass. And Yes, Madam is her and Cynthia Rothrock together. They're basically detectives that are on a case, trying to track down the bad guys, and they kick a lot of dudes in the head. It's amazing.
Nice.
So highly recommend it.
Cool. Well, thanks, Ian. And I'll put a link in the thing. Everybody should check out Ian's music. He's a great composer and artist. And I'm always happy when I see you got something new out, or just see your pop up and we talk.
Yeah,
we should do it.
A lot of stuff just like you. We're just trying to keep churning out our crappy feelings inside into something beautiful that we can share with the world and experience an emotional catharsis together, all of us. Because really, at the end of the day,
that's you. I'm just trying to make some money off this stuff. You know
what I mean?
That's why I'm always playing piano and writing.
That's just my brand. What I just said.
What?
That's just my brand statement. That's not. I didn't mean it.
Well, thanks so much for coming on, and you have to do a follow up. I'm gonna do like a 3-part master series, so I'm gonna have to. Let's come back.
Well, thanks to watch it.
And thanks to Cosmos Creative TV and Renee. So,